I'm Michael Hartwig. I'm the regional head ref for the Kansas City region. I'm going to talk a little bit about the results from last year and the kind of scores we saw and how the scores trended, whether they went up or down during the season, and also talk a little bit about robot designs. I've been a coach. This is our 12th year running teams at my wife's school, and I've seen quite a few robots. I've been keeping track of this stuff since about the second year that I became head ref. So I've got 5 or 6 years of data that I've been collecting. And I find that the trends pretty much tend to be the same from year to year. And if you're a new coach, you wouldn't know that. And if you're a reasonably new coach, you might not have noticed it for yourself yet. So I thought it'd be helpful to give you some information that I saw from last year. So we're going to talk about the scores and trends, as I said. We're also going to talk about the robot designs. It's very easy to take a glance through a few YouTube videos and think you have to build some amazingly complex bot to be able to do anything. And that's not the case. And that kind of thing is also beyond the capability of a very young team, a brand new team. So if the rookie team comes up with a robot that looks like it came from YouTube, the kids probably didn't do it. And it's unfortunate because if the kids watch it, they're not going to get that. They don't understand that those aren't normal robots that they're seeing on a lot of the videos. So we want to try and help give you some information about maybe that's not really that necessary to make anything that complex. And then I have a few resources that may be of use to you. So the scores from last year, every year we have one or two tournaments that are either low or high. Last year was no exception. Lawrence really, though, isn't as statistically significant last year because there were only 3 robots there. That was the virtual tournament where teams that didn't do the robot game also competed. So most of the teams did not have robots at that tournament. So it was different. Although you do notice that the Lawrence tournament had the highest low score, so they did very well in that respect. Notice that as the year went on, generally the scores got higher, except they went down at champs, which isn't normal. Sometimes that happens, but sometimes they do go up. There are always teams at champs that score less than they did at their qualifying tournament, and there are always teams that do more. And as you can see here, most of the teams that were champs did increase their score, but 2 of the teams that didn't increase their score were in the top 10 scores in the region. So just because you had a great robot at your qualifier, you can still run into problems at champs. And I watched all those matches. All those kids did great, and the robots really did well. And nothing they did wrong. It was just things happen. That's how FLL tournaments go. But you can see here that okay, center had higher scores. Teams did have more time to work on it. The thing that you have to understand, though, is while your kids had more time to work on it, so did everybody else. And so even though your kids may end up with a better robot and a better project, if you delay to the last tournament, you have to understand that so does everybody else that's going there. They all have the same amount of time to prepare. So it really, in terms of, we're going to be better to compete because we've had more time. Well, so is everybody else. And you might think, we don't want to go to the first tournament because we won't be ready. Again, neither will anybody else. So those things, the time certainly can be a factor, but it may not be as important as you might think as a new coach. The top 10 scores in the region were actually only scored by 6 teams. Most of them that scored very high did so at champs. Obviously, any team that has 2 scores in the top 10 went to champs. as you see, as I said, two of those six teams that scored in the top 10, their scores actually went down at champs. So conclusion is still, I think, valid. More time doesn't necessarily equate to higher scores. What kind of robot does those scores is also an interesting thing to look at. I have very basic classification rules that are just my own. Kitbot is one of the instructions that came with the robot kit, or one of the basic designs that you can find out on the web. You can find all sorts of very interesting robot designs. Some are very simple, some are very complex. If they're complex, I don't put them in the kit category, but if there's something that the kids can throw together in a couple hours or less, and has the ability to do the missions, then it's a valid bot, even though it is simple. So if I can look at a robot and see that it was one of the kits, and I do know what those look like, then that's Kitbot. You can take that bot and enhance it, change the wheels, add motors, add some beams so you have better attachment points for things, whatever. You can add quite a bit, but still underneath, it's still the basic Kitbot and the chassis, and the behavior that chassis has is still going to be the same, even though you've got all this other stuff on it. The next level up, which I call custom, is just something more complex than the kit bots or the simple designs. This may very well be a design somebody found on the internet somewhere, but it's still more complicated than a kit bot, so I give it a different category. And then every year we have one or two robots that are Rube Goldberg type complexity, and so I count those two as a different category than custom. You can see for the region that for the EV3s, we were almost evenly split in what we saw. There were more kit bots than any of the other categories, but it was still fairly even between kit, enhanced, and custom robots. For the spikes, we only had 4, so I don't know that the percentages really are terribly meaningful. This was the first year that we've had any spikes, and it was also the first year that we didn't have any NXTs since I've been involved with the region. So I fully expect to see more spikes this year than we did last year. The interesting thing for this, the top 10 scores for the region, and again, there were only a few teams in those top 10. There were several teams in the top 10 that had 2 scores, but only one of them was a custom bot, and the other 9 were kit bots of some form. 3 were basic kit bots; they were right out of the plans, and then 6 had various enhancements. But one of those basic kit bots that had no enhancements was the top scorer for the region, both at its qualifier and at championships. So they came home with 2 robot performance awards with the most basic bot that you can have with an EV3, basically, which proves my point that I've been trying. I really appreciate that they did this, because now I can actually say, look, you can score a lot of points with the kit bot. Well, they did. They were the only team that scored over 400 last year, and it was a basic bot. So it was fun to watch. The kids did a great job with it. They had the great planning and great programming and some clever attachments. And you can do all of those things with any chassis that you start with. So, it was good, and it was, like I said, it was fun to watch. These are a few things that may help you. Obviously, the FL website, you should already know. First steps, if you're a rookie coach and you haven't looked at this, you really should. There's some really good information that'll help you get started and get your team get started. The Kansas City First portal, you definitely want to know about. There's all sorts of information from the region there, and you need to keep in touch. So there it is. The forums have dropped off a lot in the last few years, and I left them on here, but I don't know how useful they still really are. I see more traffic on Facebook than I do on the forums, and there are a few good. There's at least one very good Facebook group, and there's some junk out there too. So you have to be careful about what you pay attention to. Last two are a pair of excellent websites. They're run by some kids from a team in Pittsburgh who were FLL world champions several years ago, but they've done an incredible amount of outreach. And they have some wonderful lessons, both programming and building. They've got design plans. Every year they develop a scoring app, which is always very good. It's the one I always go to for my phone. Anyway, whether you've got an EV3 or Prime, they've got site and lessons that are directed at that specific platform. So I really recommend that you look at those. They also have things like team building exercises. So they're not just talking about the robot, and they have a lot of information about the project as well. They're excellent sites, and the family that does it is very good, and they're very responsive if you have questions. So anyway, those are some links. And then if you have questions, you can email me. The material for this will be on my website and will be on the Kansas City FLL portal here before too long. But you can always contact me, rules questions about the presentation, whatever. I'm here to help. And if you or your kids have anything you need to discuss with me, then please let me know. Hopefully everybody has a good season, and we'll see you at the tournaments.